So, welcome back to the workshop, and today we are going to be continuing with Speedy for a little bit. I don't know where we're going to get to. I haven't actually worked out what I'm going to be doing to her yet, but we have been working on the cylinders, and before we go too much further I will just demonstrate where we're at. So, with the airline connected, that feels pretty darn good. So, let's get it back on the trolley, then we'll take a look at what needs to be done. The first things first, let's get the airline off. Now, I just need to take these off, put the steam pipes back and the steam pipe covers, and I think the valve covers aren't actually bolted on yet, so they need bolting on, all that bolt together. The drain cocks, I've had a continual problem with the levers coming off of the valves. So what I'm going to do is the same as I did on Enterprise on a couple of them. I will take the arms off, I'll take the valve spindles out and solder the arms onto the spindle, and then just make sure they're all connected up and working properly. So there's the drive arm with the two plug cocks, tapered plug cocks I should say, and with them in the same orientation. I've only put this one back on somewhere that I thought was right, but that one is at the opposite 90. So I'll take that off the square, turn it 90, put it back, clean it all up, flux it and silver solder it on. So with that running nicely, as far as I know, the next thing I'm going to draw my attention to is injector water feeds. Now, I haven't quite decided what to do with this at the moment. I am going to fit a wagon because I'm just fed up with the water getting too hot for the injectors and not having enough sort of duration with the tanks. They're quite small tanks in Speedy. So I already have a wagon which has a water tank in, and I have found a couple of water valves. So let me just show you what my intention is. So what I think I'm going to do, I had thought about taking out the fittings in the bottom of the tank, putting the valve in there, then shortening the handle, or I'd have to do something so that the lid can still come on and off, so the handles would have to be removable. Or my second thought is if I mount it to the front, one side or the other, to that support, it can be mounted through the buffer beam, and the union on the pipe goes straight into that. Then this rubber pipe I can probably reuse. It can come off the bottom of the valve and then come forward and just be slid onto the engine. So I think that is the way it's going to be. And there we go. Sits there quite happily. I think by the time I put a little bracket at the top to hold the top of the spindle, and there's a nut on the inside going to the pipe that these are currently connected to from the fitting at the back, I think that'll be pretty solid. But we'll get that far, see how it feels, and do something else if needed. And one piece of brass angle and 2 holes later, cut to length, that will work quite nicely as a bracket at the top there. I just need probably 2 screws to hold it in, and I think that looks pretty good. All that's left now, so fix it on, mess around with the pipework behind so it goes onto the back of these, and we're all good to go. Now I've thought about this quite a bit, because obviously I was going to go up high, but I've decided to go down a couple of planks because A, it will make this seem less obtrusive in general, and the bolt heads on the inside will be less obtrusive as well. So I'll get one in. Yeah, they look pretty vertical. Move it out of the way while I drill the other hole. Oh. Didn't mean to do that. Obviously the bolts will need to be shortened eventually. That looks about right. If it looks right, it is right. And there we go. There we go. I'll get them tightened up, and I might flip it over and start looking at the pipe work on the underside. Perfect. So I've managed to pipe this one up. Right or wrong, I've reused the old pipe and actually managed to just change the route, and you can see the difference between an old pipe and a new pipe. Say new pipe. I've just rerouted it, kept it away from the wheels a bit more, and I've managed to lose some of the length of pipe. So I'll do the same to the other one. I did have to take a little bit off the nut actually, because when it tightened up with an olive in there, it was still just a little bit loose. So I took a fraction off the end of the nut and we seem to be all good. So I'll get the other one done and then we can flip it over and then the wagon is done. We just need to change the pipework on the engine. And there we go. Both fitted. Just time to flip it over, take a look at the loco. So there are two ways I could do this. The way I'd always thought I would do this is to tee off the pipework between the injector and the valve that's already there, and then run a separate pipe to the back which can be capped off. That way the engine can run as a tank engine without the wagon if necessary. For example, on a ground level where it might not be quite so easy to sit behind the tank. However, I've decided against that for the time being. I'm going to just reroute this pipe, come to the buffer beam and put a connection behind the buffer beam or under the buffer beam to take the pipe off of the valves. The reason being, I will just see how I get on. If over time I think that it needs, that I wish I had done it differently so that I could drive on the ground level easier, then I'll change it. But for now, I just fancy making it easy as possible, as few places where it could go wrong as possible. That way I can run it, keep it going, hope everything's good, and in time then change things, and if I start to have trouble again then I know where my problems are. So for now it's just going to be able to have to run with the tank, and the axle pump will still run off the side tanks. So let's get that going, and we'll take this pipe off in between the valve that's there and the injector, run the pipe back further, make a little bracket so it comes off the buffer beam, and see where we go from there. So let's crack on. So I had a slightly different idea and a different approach while I was doing this. I've done one side. It didn't really need showing. I'll just talk you through what I did. Let's take a look. So on this side, the pipe that went from the water valve to the tank had previously broken. I mean, this was it. The union had sheared off. So I just had a bit of rubber pipe there. I took that off with the intention of sorting that pipe out, and I figured, why not just run the pipe straight from the valve down to the buffer beam? It's a short enough run that that pipe is then reasonably solid, doesn't need supporting. Whereas if I came all the way from the injector, it would be a long bit of pipe, would need supporting, and I'd need to do something else. I mean, I could have put a bracket off the steps or something like that. But as it is, let's straighten that while I'm here. As it is, that's what I've done. It also means it's still going through the old valve. I'll just leave that on all the time. But if I ever change the wagon for something else, like I've got a driving trolley, I've got a brake van that's got a tank in it, made by the same person, got 2 outlets but no valves again. Well, if I was using that on ground level, I could still use the valves in the engine. So I've left that in, but I still need to do the other side. I've been going through a box of all sorts of random pipes that I've got, and I found this one, which I don't know whether I straighten out that bend, it might be about right. Yeah, if I straighten that bend out, it'd probably go from the valve down to here perfectly on the other side. So we'll give that a go, see what I can use. If I can use something I've already got, great. If not, then I'll make a new piece of pipe. But that's it. When I do come to doing the test on it and running it, I'll probably get a long bit of pipe that can go, if I make a hose tail, something like that, so I can put a pipe on that can run back to the wagon and bypass that valve. So then if the injector's not working, I can do that to prove whether it's the valve that's the problem or not. But hopefully, touch wood, this will all be good. So I don't know what's next now, actually. I think there's a piston gland I've got to sort. So one last thing before I leave you. Where the pipes came out of the bottom of the back tank, up here, the pipe that went to the valve, I've put a little stub on it, a little bit of pipe with a bung in the end, just to bung the hole, really. But it does serve the purpose that I can pull the rubber pipe off to drain the tank at the end of the day. That's always been an issue with this engine, you can't drain the tanks. So any muck that's in there just stays in there. So yeah, I think that's it. I have repacked the gland the other side, did that off camera. There is a video that I did a few weeks ago, months ago, about repacking glands. So I didn't feel it was necessary to do again. But I believe that's her ready for a boiler test now. So the next time you see her, we'll be in another video and we'll take her for a boiler test. So as always, thank you so much for watching. As always, all the methods I've used throughout this rebuild, call it a rebuild, brief refurb, may not be the very best ways of doing things, but they work for me. There has been a couple of experiments in this. I don't know how they'll work yet. I don't know how long they'll last for, but at the moment, all the signs are promising. So we'll see. But I will catch you another day. Don't know what's coming next. But keep working. I will be back soon. Take care.